Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Mr. Molefe.
Pilani, what's up, brother?
Hey, nothing much, my brother. How you doing?
No, not too bad, not too bad. Surviving a pandemic.
Surviving a pandemic, yeah. How was the scope?
No, I thought it would be ready by now, but it just needs 1 hour, and then we're good to go.
Did you cook it the hostel style or you cooked it the hotel style?
What's the difference?
Oh, have you ever been to a hostel? A men's hostel?
I have.
No. Okay. Let's make a deal. When you come to Durban, you're gonna give me a call. I will take you to Wamashu Hostel.
Yeah.
And then you will enjoy the real one.
Okay, so how I do it, I just put my salt and I just put my my raja there and I just put some water and let it cook for about 3 or 4 hours or so.
No pele, no nothing else.
No, not really. I've never had it with chilies, no pele.
I must take you to Wamashu Hostel. No.
Okay.
It's a deal. Welcome to our football live chats with football fans.
Yes.
I know that a lot of people are very skeptical with them. Hello. Hey, you have a pretty daughter.
Thank you. There's 2 of them.
2 of them. Oh, I've got 2 boys, so we can make a deal.
Lobola is gonna be sky high, Baba.
No, don't worry. We are covered on that one.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mazola, for agreeing to join us today. We truly appreciate it. We do this to show how much we appreciate you, how much we love you, and how much we love the work that you do.
Thank you.
We don't bite. We don't bite because Twitter is not a real thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I know that on Twitter, especially, you have a love and hate relationship with Sundowns fans in particular. Why is that?
No, I think it's a perception when a pro. There's no such thing as a. Sorry, wait. Let that pass, so you can hear me properly.
Yeah.
I think it's a perception when a pro. I don't have. I suppose you could call maybe love and hate, whatever. Sundowns fans are very sensitive, and I think it's because they love and appreciate what their club has done over the years. I mean, by the way, Sundowns till this day still record Premier Soccer League title holders. If the season resumes, they're gonna make it La Decima, as Coach Pito likes to say, 10 titles, and that's going to set them apart from the rest. I think, and if I can explain it, one of my beats as a Soccer Laduma journalist is to cover Mamelodi Sundowns and specifically Kaizer Chiefs. Those are the 2 main teams. Of course, if something big happens at Orlando Pirates or at any other club, Bidvest Vets, I mean, you would have seen. I've covered a lot of the Bidvest Vets stories during the whole sale, and it so happens that the deals were happening between Sundowns and Bidvest Vets for players, and also Orlando Pirates as well. So Sundowns is one of my beats, and so is Kaizer Chiefs. So those are the teams that I'm being tasked or been assigned by my editor to cover religiously, make sure that I don't miss a story from Kaizer Chiefs or Mamelodi Sundowns. So obviously, people from the outside, people who read our stories, they don't necessarily know what happens behind the scenes in the newsroom. So they don't know, for instance, that my beat is to cover their club. So they think I'm always looking for something at the club. And by the way, Pro, I've covered some very positive stories about Mamelodi Sundowns too,
Now we'll come back to that. Don't worry. You are a big Chelsea supporter.
Yeah.
Out out of all teams in the EPL, why Chelsea? Because Chelsea, I mean, come on,
Yeah,
Abramovich just came like yesterday.
yeah. It's an interesting story, bro. When I left, originally from the Free State, you know, in
Mm.
Bethlehem. So Free State Stars is the team I grew up supporting. Actually, you know, I used to
Oh,
go
okay.
watch Free State Stars. Patrick Mbutu used to
Hmm.
come to my street. He was friends with one of the goalkeepers who lived just down the road on my street. And I used to
Hmm.
see Patrick Mbutu almost every day,
Hmm.
especially during the time after he had left Kaiser Chiefs to sort of
Hmm.
wind down his career at Free State Stars and all of that.
Hmm.
So Bethlehem is my hometown. And when I left Bethlehem in 2004, yeah, I
Hmm.
think it was 2004, to join, to come study at Wits University.
Hmm.
My parents never had cable TV. My parents never had DSTV. I don't know what
Hmm.
it was called at the time. You remember we had Mnet
Yeah,
Open
yeah.
Time.
It was CSN and
Yeah,
Mnet Open Time. Yeah,
yeah. So the only thing I could ever watch was Mnet Open Time from 5 o'clock, seven
at 7
o'clock,
p.m. Yeah.
and sometimes we are lucky they forget to switch it off, and then it goes on
Hmm.
for another hour. And obviously
Yeah.
there was no football on that, so I only watched PSL, strictly PSL.
Hmm.
Some of my friends were even shocked that I remember when I got to varsity that I knew just about every PSL player, even in
Hmm.
the Hellenic team,
Hmm.
Santos team. I knew their names because that's all I watched on SABC. But when I got to university, um, I watched DSTV for the first time, and the first
Hmm.
ever EPL game I watched was
Hmm.
Chelsea versus Newcastle under
Oh, okay.
under Jose Mourinho, and I think they beat Newcastle 4-1 or 4-0.
Yo, yeah.
And
Hey,
and
Maskepe won't like that one.
yeah, I know. And I decided from that time that, you know what, this is a new experience for me. I've never ever watched EPL. So I need to choose
Hmm.
a team because I see now my friends here at varsity are able to have connection to be able to watch EPL games. So I need to choose a game. And then the
Hmm.
first game I watched was Newcastle versus Chelsea. Chelsea won, and I said I'm gonna pick the winning team. That's how I got to be a Chelsea supporter.
Oh, okay. My first EPL team was Coventry City. You won't believe it. Cause cause on my TV, I think Coventry City they played during the time of it was Gary McAllister, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
So you know when you always watch that number 10 bald head, and I was like, no, this is a team to be.
Yeah.
And Peter Ndlovu was also there, and you know Uguti, when you watch only those teams, you become attached to them. Only those two teams that were on TV. But as time went on, I realized just no man, there are more than 18 teams here. There are other teams then started changing. But anyway, it's good to know. It's good to know your history
The
with
Chelsea
Chelsea.
story. Yeah, a lot of people always ask me that, and I always tell them it's a funny story because it so happens that when Abramovich came in, I started
Hmm.
supporting Chelsea, but it's not linked to the fact that Chelsea started buying
Hmm.
players and winning titles.
Hmm.
The first ever EPL game I watched and sat down and watched the whole 90 minutes was Chelsea
Hmm.
versus Newcastle, and Chelsea
Hmm.
won 4-1, and I picked Chelsea.
So you didn't watch about Gianfranco Zola, Gianluca Vialli, Ruud Gullit, and all those guys.
I saw the highlights. Remember, ETV used to sometimes broadcast.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Hmm.
So I would see the highlights, and of course, once I started becoming a Chelsea fan, I started going into the archives and being able to watch some of the legends of the club, Zola, Gialli, and all
Hmm.
of them, Ruud Gullit. That's how I know them now. Dennis
Hmm.
Wise,
Hmm.
I know them because I went back in time to sort of familiarize myself. But initially, no. When I started watching Chelsea, it was Ian Robin, it was Damien Duff,
Oh.
John Terry, Frank Lampard. I think Drogba had just arrived. They had
Hmm.
Hernan Crespo as well. Those were
Ah,
the players at the club at the time.
Mazola, you are still young, man. You didn't know. You don't know if person between Dennis Wise and Roy Keane.
I never watched them because
Ah, Mazola.
in the sense that when I say I never watched them, I mean in the sense that regularly. Of course,
Oh yeah,
I
oh
watched them.
yeah.
I was able to see the Champions League games on ETV,
Oh
but
yeah.
I never was able to watch the EPL and the Champions League on a regular basis. I watched highlights. I watched some of the big games that ETV were able to broadcast during that time. Because remember, the first time I ever really had access to DSTV was 2004.
A lot of people don't know that you are actually a good singer.
How did you find out about that? Is it on the
Hey,
Instagram
hey,
video?
I've got scorpions. I also got my own scorpions.
Yeah, look, when I was in high school, I think because I went to a boarding school for about 3 years in the Free State. It's in a small town called Senegal. I don't know if you've ever heard of Senegal.
Yes, I've heard about Senegal, yeah, but I've never been there.
Yeah, Senegal, Matwabing. So I went to boarding school there for about 3 years at a school called Poly Rasmus High School. And there, that's where I started singing. I mean, there were guys who had Bible studies and they started church and whatever. And we were sort of, ministering our own. We were our own sort of reverends and pastors, because we didn't necessarily have a traditional church every Sunday, because we were in boarding school.
Oh,
So
okay, you have this SEM like.
yeah, so we had guys that were studying theology and all of that, and they started a Bible school within the boarding school, and they needed a choir. I joined the choir, and that's when I sort of discovered that I could hold a note a little bit. So I started singing there, and I just kept with it. Even tried to learn to play some instruments, but it didn't quite work out. I gave up, but the voice is still there.
I can tell. Mazola, in 2019,
Yeah,
you went to Egypt to cover Bafana Bafana. How was the time there?
I went with my wife, by the way. That was an incredible experience, because it was touch and go, because at first I didn't necessarily have enough funds to go there. And I mean, I think when a pro, it's like that for a lot of media houses these days. It's difficult. People always ask journalists, why are you not there covering this and this and this and that? And I think post COVID-19, it's actually going to be worse. It's actually going to be worse in terms of, because you've seen media houses, the media industry is also struggling as part of that industry, that cluster of industries that's struggling a little bit, that having to close down some departments, some newspapers. I'm sure you know by now, the Sunday Sun is closing down. There've been a lot of magazines that are closing down. So to answer your question, earlier on, I didn't actually have the funds, but I was able to partner with Kaya FM. Kaya FM wanted someone that could give them audio and sort of narrate the post-match, pre-match interviews with the players, with Coach Stuart Baxter, and they were able to cover part of my fee, and I was able to find some funding somewhere else, and also out of my pocket to be able to go there. So I think that's what makes it special. The fact that our national team, although the performance left a lot to be desired, people were quite critical, but our boys were able to go past the group stages. I didn't have enough money to stay past the group stages, so I only watched the 3 games against Ivory Coast, Morocco, and what was it?
Namibia.
And Namibia. So I was only able to stay for about 10 days, and I went with the missus. So for me, it was work and pleasure as well, because she had taken some time off work, but I was still working, but I was still able to make some time later in the day to go sightseeing. We went to go see the pyramids. We went to, we had dinner with a lot of friends. Eni Jordan hosted some journalists there, to do a bit of both business and pleasure as well, because we were able to discuss and ask him questions about Bafana, Safa, and whatever. And also because he's one of the executive members of KEV. And then we were also able to have a meal together and just talk about anything related to football. So that 10 days last year was great. Actually, just I think 2 weeks ago, a memory popped up on my phone to remind me that, you know, about a year ago or so, I was in Egypt. So the football, obviously, I didn't just watch those Bafana games, but I was able to go to other big games as well. So, you know, as you say, Pro, I think it was one. I mean, I've covered quite a lot on the continent and, you know, outside the continent as well, but that has to be the best trip by far. And Egypt as well, it's just a lovely place also. Yeah.
So no wonder you complained about grapes.
Yeah, because everything, the food was cheap, by the way.
Yeah.
The food was very cheap. I think I became a social media sensation in Egypt because every time I went out, I just couldn't believe how cheap the food was, you know. And people in Egypt were saying, don't say it out loud, don't tell the government, because the government will take the prices up, because obviously it's relative. I mean, if I go to the UK, if I were to go live in the UK, I would probably find the you know, the cost of living there quite expensive as a compared maybe to what I am earning and what people who live there are earning. So that's what Egyptians were saying. They were saying, you know, the average, you know, wage, the average salary in Egypt still makes it quite expensive. Although some did admit that the food is on the cheap side of things. And then I came home to South Africa. I was able to see that a lot of our grapes are exported from Egypt. I was buying that big tub of grapes from Spar and Woolworths that cost about 40-50 rands. In Egypt, I'm buying it for 6 rands, my brother.
You. No, so it's a daylight robbery. Hey, it's said. Mazola, what's your opinion about the wrestling that is happening between SAFA and the PSL?
It's disappointing. It hurts our football. I mean, it could collapse the industry. But I'll give you two sides of it. The first side is from SAFA's point of view. I understand where SAFA are coming from. SAFA have been given, they've been told by the government that if you are going to allow the bubble to continue, if clubs are going to go into this bio bubble for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or however long, it's the owners are on you to make sure that it's safe, or as safe as can be, because we know that even people who are very careful with COVID-19 and are out and about working, making a living, some people do still get infected. It doesn't matter how careful you are. And I've said this before a couple of times. You know, the disease does not discriminate. Rich, poor, black, white, Indian, colored, it doesn't matter. You know, people are getting infected all over the world. It's not a South African issue. But SAFA have been given the responsibility to make sure that the bio bubble is safe, especially if it's going to be here in Gauteng, where our infections at the moment are skyrocketing. So if SAFA are going to be held liable, they need to make sure that compliance is down to a T. You know, you can't take any shortcuts. So that's SAFA's point. And that's essentially what SAFA are saying. And the issue, obviously the issue of the referee, you know, we've had contradicting sort of views, especially from AC Ngobo, who's not necessarily within the referees department as SAFA, but is a former referee, is a former, obviously, football administrator. So he knows, you know, the ins and outs. And from his opinion is that referees have been training. Maybe he's spoken to a couple of them. Maybe he's been monitoring some of them. Referees are ready and willing to go. But SAFA are saying it's not just a referee issue. It's a compliance issue. If we are able to know the number of players and staff members at different clubs, and remember, it's a lot of clubs. It's 32 clubs. If all member clubs are able to be transparent with information, not to the media. I mean, people keep saying, I want to know the names of the players who are infected, who are sick, who are isolating. No, I've never said that. I've just said that, you know, clubs must be forthcoming with information. And if clubs are giving the compliance officer at SAFA and at the PSL enough information about what is the current situation, then that's part of complying. And also the training venues are safe and whatever. I mean, over the past couple of weeks when we've heard some disturbing news about how some clubs are taking shortcuts in terms of in terms of compliance. So that's from a SAFA standpoint. I think the referee thing is a bit of a sideshow on its own, because referees with time they will be ready and we can start playing. But the compliance issue, that's the bigger picture here, because SAFA will be held liable. On the PSL side, I mean, of course, it's a business. That it is what it is. Players have got to earn a living. Clubs have got to keep earning their grants to be able to pay those players. And at the same time, if that doesn't happen, that means the industry will eventually collapse. And you don't want a situation when the industry collapses. So we have to find a way, because it's not just about the outstanding number of games at the moment. It's not just about those 100+ games that are remaining. It's also about the next season. How are we going to make sure that we comply to be able to start a new season? It's not just about this because people also think it's just about this remaining, the balance of the 2019-2020 season, but it's with the next season as well. So if the two federations, the two bodies can work together, I think because one needs the other to survive. So I don't understand the mudslinging, the confusion about this. He said this, she said that. It's hurting our football. I mean, I was listening on the radio the other day where I think it was Robert Marawa. He had the PSL CEO and he also had the SAFA CEO. And it was just like almost like a mudslinging of some sort, confusing statement to some degree. Let's come together, let's make it work, because we all want football to come back. Players need to earn a salary. Clubs need to continue, because this is essentially a business. SAFA will need those players for Bafana Bafana, for Banyana Banyana, for the junior national teams as well. So let's work together to be able to make sure that the industry as a whole, it does not collapse. Because without football as well, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. Without football, I don't have a job. Those are the facts.
Yeah, those are sad realities that we are facing, Mazola. And now, with you as a Soccer Latuma employee, how do you keep your creativity during this time, during this period? Because I know that your editor wants a story. Now, what do you submit? What do you say?
Yeah, earlier it was difficult. I must be honest, Pro. When we went into lockdown, we were almost kind of looking. We started an approach where we were looking back in terms of what has happened over the season, the players that have performed. So the first 2 weeks maybe were okayish in that we could look back and we still had some interviews going. We still had coaches giving their opinion about lockdown, how it's going to affect them, how they are planning on training. And remember, at the time, the PSL still said we are aiming to finish the season on the 30th of June. So clubs are still thinking, okay, it's mid-March now. Maybe we could start training late April or the beginning of May. So, it was a little bit difficult. But then, closer to that time, we had contracts that were obviously expiring. So there were a lot of stories there. And then we had, I must say the vets TTM sale also came to us, because there were a lot of stories there. Because then Sundowns and Pirates and Chiefs and whoever else were starting to get involved in terms of trying to see which players they can get from a club that's going to be sold. And obviously a lot of players were saying that they are not going to relocate to Limpopo. And some, unfortunately, if they're not able to get deals, they won't be able to stay in Gauteng. They'll relocate to Limpopo. So that kept us going. I think, and within that, obviously, you still need to find other stories. And we had, I think it's at that time that our association, I don't know if you are aware of it, we launched our association called the South African SAFJA, the South African Football Association, Football Journalist Association. And I think under lockdown, we got a lot of work done. I mean, just today, we got confirmation that our bank account is up and running. our members can now also start being able to send through their membership fees there. And through Savja, we were able to organize a lot of interviews. Even now, they're still ongoing. We've had interviews with Coach Gaetano Tembo. We've had an interview with Gavin Hunt. We've had it with Coach Rulani just prior to him leaving Chipa United. We've had it with SAFA President Denis Jordan. We've had it with Dr. Tulani Ngwenya at SAFA. We've had it. I can name a lot of. I think just this week we had Coach Steve Barker at Stellenbosch FC. So we've had content galore. We've even had our overseas-based players. We've had Keegan Adoli. We've had Gift Links as well. We've had Lisa Singh. Yeah, the list is just endless, and we were able to achieve that through a collective effort as Sabja. And I think that's where our creative minds were able to come together, and we were able to conduct those interviews to keep giving us content. But for me personally, I think the vets TTM sale was where my bread and butter was for about 4 or 5 weeks. I was able to get some good stories from the back and forth between the two clubs, and also Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns being interested in some of the players, and obviously subsequently Sundowns being able to sign Ricardo Goss, Hashim Domingo, and Gift Mutupa as well.
While you are still there, I'm interested in this one particular issue, Mazola. Why? Because I asked your friend the same question. Why is it easy for journalists in general to know the figures? You know the question. Now, please shoot.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Look, I think people must be aware that it's no secret that the chairman of Orlando Pirates he prides himself in scooping the media, if I can put it like that. He'll always come out and say, yeah, the media did not know this. I'm revealing something that's new. I think the chairman is very much hands-on. I don't necessarily think Sundowns president Patrice Motsepe is as hands-on as the Orlando Pirates chairman. I think Mr. Motsepe has delegated quite a lot, and obviously we know by far Coach Pito in South African football, if not just him, then him and Gavin Hunt are the two coaches that can decide which player comes into the club and which player leaves the club. You don't get that situation anywhere else. I don't care what you say. Maybe there are smaller teams, maybe in the lower division. I can only really think of Jomosono because he's owner and coach at the same time. But you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it's Coach Pito and Coach Gavin Hunter. Those are the only two coaches that I know in top flight football that are able to decide who comes and goes. So in answering your question, chairman of Orlando Pirates, very much hands-on, does not, you hardly ever get leaks. And even to get player movements is very difficult. People might take that lightly, but it's very difficult. You have to keep trying very hard to get the scoops at Orlando Pirates. But we've been able to do that. We've been able to say that they're interested in Dion Hotu. They're interested in Tyson from Bidwell, and they may very well have already agreed some deals in principle and making announcements later. Sundowns, to be honest, I think it's also by virtue of the fact that they do pay more than any other club in the country. And two, they also offer quite lucrative offers. And I think when their offers come in, people are then starting to talk about it. I mean, we get the information because we have to dig deep, and the information is there. And also Sundowns, and I think, Bro, I'm sure you have to agree with me on this. Sundowns is the only club that really buys players. Sundowns is the only club that really buys players. Remind me of the last time Chiefs really went out and bought 3-4 players for.
No, they went to East Africa and bought what's that guy that didn't play? The guy that didn't play even a single game.
Yeah. I see you talking the guy from Ghana who left after 6 months without kicking a ball. By the way, he was a free agent from Simba SC in Tanzania. So they didn't even buy him.
So they didn't buy them.
They didn't buy him. They may have bought Nukovic. I'm not 100% sure of that. I know they did buy Kambule. They bought Kambule from Zambia for about 3 million. I think that figure is obvious. I think yes, someone has just reminded us. It's Kote, James Kote, from Ghana. James Kote from Ghana. He was a free agent from Simba SC. Nukovic, I'm not 100% sure. He may have been a free agent. They bought Kambule for 3 million. But other than that, you go over the years, Chiefs hardly ever spend money on buying players. You go to Orlando Pirates. Orlando Pirates, most of the time, you could find that it's swap deals, players being released, being let go, and coming in. But they are second to Mamelodi Sundowns in terms of a club that potentially spends money. Maybe Orlando Pirates are in that list. But Mamelodi Sundowns buy players unashamedly so. I mean, right now.
So they keep the economic activity of the league flowing.
Mamelodi Sundowns can buy players and make sure that a team is already covered for the rest of the season, because that's like winning the league. I remember when Free State Stars, when they were buying your Lucky Muhomis and players like that. If you buy a Lucky Muhomi for 3 million, 4 million, Nico Mobi last season was bought from Free State Stars for about an amount in the region of 3 to 4 million. That's the money that's very close to similarly to winning a Telkom knockout, similarly to winning a Nedbank Cup title. So Mamelodi Sundowns, you are quite correct, bro. They keep the PSL economy running. So I think that's why the figures are sort of out there. And I think for us as journalists, it would help us a great deal if figures were becoming transparent. Not necessarily the players' salaries per se, but just the
now let me disturb you a little bit. Let me be rude and disturb you. Who wrote the Tony Silva letter?
Who wrote the Tony Silva letter?
Yes.
What do you mean, who wrote the Tony Silva letter?
Who wrote the Tony Silva letter? The Tony Silva letter, you know the Tony Silva letter.
No, I know the Tony Silva letter. Well, as far
but I'm sure, Mazola, as a journalist, you are sitting in your corner, you hear about this letter, that there's a letter that's going to be published soon.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, I'm sure you've got a close relationship with your colleagues, and the letter get leaked to you, and you read the letter, and you say, "Ish, this letter is gonna be selling in newspapers like hotcakes."
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you know who's the author.
Tony Silva is the author. What do you mean? I know who's the author.
Okay, if you say Tony Silva is the author, then it's fine. But I know you and I, we both know that that
Tony
letter
Silva
was not
the letter. No, bro. Yeah, look. Did you ask Joe Cran this question? Because Joe
yes, I did.
Who wrote the story. Joe wrote the story.
Joe wrote the story.
Joe wrote the story. But so let me give you the background. Joe did receive a letter from a statement from Tony Silva, which I mean, we have no reason to assume that it was written by someone else. It's coming from Tony Silva. Tony Silva said, "Here's a statement," and for us, it's an exclusive. You know, I don't understand. I've seen people were talking about, you know, why was it given to one publication? No, it's an exclusive. You know, why was I the only one who wrote without fear or favor, without thinking that the story could be denied, that Rulani Mokoena is going back to Mamelodi Sundowns? Why did I write that Hashim Domingo, Ricardo Goss, and Gift Mutupa are definitely have signed 5-year contracts and are going to Mamelodi Sundowns? Why did I write that Coach Pito Musimani was staying at Mamelodi Sundowns and has been given a 4-year contract before the press conference and the announcement? That's an exclusive. That's how exclusives work.
But Mazola, you know, football fans, we ask raw questions.
I know.
Because we want to deal with the rumors. We want to separate rumors from facts and lies from imaginations. So
let me ask you this, Pro. Why is there a suggestion that Tony Silva letter was made up? Why is there a suggestion that the Tony
Not
Silva
not
letter?
not necessarily made up.
Yeah.
Well, it may happen that Tony Silva contributed to the letter, but um, from from my point of view, the letter had a lot of influence from outside,
Okay.
not from Tony Silva, but from
Okay.
outside. And there is
Outside meaning what?
meaning there's a third person who contributed because he or she had issues with the Mamelodi Sundowns coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my take. But you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm happy that you are explaining that no, the letter was received as an exclusive.
Yeah, the
But
letter
now,
was as an exclusive. Yeah, I think what did Joe say? Because remember, you're asking me a topic about something that, although yes, it was published on our platform. I take responsibility, obviously, for stories that are published on Soka Laduma because I'm an Soka Laduma senior journalist and an employee. So if there's something on our website, on our newspaper, I must face the music because then that means I knew about it and I stand by it. So I still stand by the Tony Silva letter. I'm interested to know what Joe said to you because he is the author of the story. I didn't write the story.
nah, it's okay. The video is available on my YouTube page. We can go and check it out. Yeah, you'll get Joe's feeling.
Okay.
Mazola,
Okay,
you know that
are we giving the Tony Silva letter now?
no, we'll never because I've got a lot of questions for you, and
Okay.
I want to respect your time as well.
No, it's fine. We can keep going, bro. Yeah,
We can do it the second hour.
we can keep going.
All right, no, then I'm happy. Mazola, you wrote a story about Peter Mosimane wants to open an academy.
Correct.
Remember that one?
I do
And
remember. How can I
was
forget?
it a story or it was? I think it was a tweet. And Peter
No,
Mosimane responded.
it was a story, and the coach responded.
Yes, and he responded and he said, "Who's your source, Mazola?
Yes.
Who was your source, Mazola?"
No, bro. I can't answer that question. I can't give you my source. I mean, I'm sure you know how it works. Look,
Yeah, I do.
the information, even until this day, I still stand by my information. You know, I might have used maybe this. I'll admit to that I might have maybe used, you know, my wording of in the story about academy and whatever, because I think that's possibly what upset the coach, that I said there's a conflict of interest because the coach wants to start an academy when Sundowns already have an academy. The story here is that the coach, and for me, I think it was also a positive story. You know, obviously at the time it happened when there were still contract negotiations. And the coach caught feelings. Let's call it what it is. The coach caught feelings because it was a sensitive matter. He didn't think it would reach the media, but it reached me. And I double checked. I called people. I made sure that the story is 100%. And then the coach obviously caught feelings. So here's the thing: the coach will at some point, and he's alluded to this in various interviews. I think he did an Instagram live when he joined Instagram with DJ Names.
With me.
And he said that Sundowns have agreed and helped him to start a foundation. Sort of the Coach Peter Mosimane Foundation, which is linked with sort of school sports. That's where he's gonna bring up and coming talent, and I think that's where the story is. And maybe the coach was upset that the information was not supposed to come out, or whatever the case may be. I'm not 100% certain, because obviously he did voice his displeasure about the story, and almost seemingly, I wouldn't necessarily say he denied the story. I wouldn't necessarily say he denied the story. I think he just said, he asked who is my source, who gave me the information, and he wanted to maybe clarify a few issues. So let's wait for the announcement. The announcement is coming. Coach Peter Mosimane, in conjunction with Mamelodi Sundowns, I believe at some point they will announce that there's some sort of collaboration, you know, a foundation of some sort, which, look, if we want to call it what it is, if you look at it, if you are producing players, if you and I partner together and we decide to start up something from grassroots level, if I'm using the word loosely, I'm probably going to call it an academy, because what is an academy in your, let me ask you this, in your view, when someone says, I have an academy, what does that mean?
Well, I always think that it's somebody who not only develop football players, but who also develop players outside football, like you academically and other social life skills. So an academy is not only limited to football.
There you go. There you go. You've answered my question. You've answered your question, and you've elaborated further on what I was about to say, because that's what it is. You know, so maybe I believe there were some issues about how that's going to work out, because Sundowns already has something similar. So let's wait for the announcement. And the coach also has said that he will wait for Sundowns to, when the timing is right, they will make that announcement. But there's something in the pipeline, which can only mean the two have agreed. The two have agreed to move forward in that direction, because it was part of the things that was holding back the talks in terms of the coach's contract and all of that. So I'm not gonna give you my source, but I'm glad
No, it's okay.
I'm glad we're on the same page about what an academy means.
Yeah. No, I understand. Now, Mazola, obviously I'm not as good as you when it comes to asking questions, so I'll keep jumping up and down. So you're gonna have to bear with me on this one.
No,
there's something that we need to clear here. You have blocked all 217 Sundowns fans on your Twitter, including me. Mazola, let's fix that part.
Yeah.
You need to. This is not an instruction, but it's a request. You need to unblock all Sundowns fans on your Twitter account, because we enjoy your stories. In as much as we disagree with the stories, but I mean, you are explaining yourself, and we are understanding now that where Mazola is coming from with his stories.
Yeah.
Now, even if we challenge you, even if we disagree with you, don't block us, okay? Now we ask you nicely to go back to your Twitter account after this conversation and unblock. It's only 217 of us, Mazola. Is it too much? Is it too much to ask?
Look, bro. You know, it's difficult to explain, because sometimes there's just so many of the Sundowns fans that are commenting all at the same time, to either reacting to a story that I wrote about Sundowns, or they giving an opinion. Sometimes it can even be during a match. You know, I was watching a Sundowns match. I comment about a goal or an offside or a result, and Sundowns fans start attacking me. So I'm thinking, what have I done? So look, I mean, sometimes also we have to admit football is an emotional game. So fans do get, and I get like that as a Chelsea fan as well when I'm watching. My reaction sometimes is maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not what it should be, and I think, me and some Sundowns fans, and there are some of them that I have not blocked. I mean, you can see the comments popping up there. Someone said, surprisingly, I was not blocked. Maybe it's because you've not offended me, because I'm not. I don't mind having a debate about a particular subject. I'm happy if you call me out on my opinion about an offside and whatever. But when it becomes personal and you start insulting me, I think, I blocked you. We were having this conversation offline earlier. I asked you, please remind me why I blocked you again. And you sent me a tweet. And I'll tell you why I blocked you. Because in that time, I don't think you used your logic. I don't think you used your logic. In 2019, January 2019, Daniel Akpej signs for Kaizer Chiefs. He's got the worst record of all the goalkeepers in the Premier Soccer League, especially in the top flight. And he joins Kaizer Chiefs, who have an incredible goalkeeper in Itumeleng Khune. So I tweeted that I don't think that Akpay is going to last at Kaizer Chiefs because he's got the worst record in top flight history at the time. At the time, he was he had conceded the most number of goals. Cheaper were struggling, but they were somehow able to sell him to Kaizer Chiefs because they desperately needed a goalkeeper. More than a year later, bro, when he gets offered a new contract, you bring up that tweet. So many things have happened in 12 months. Actually, I think it's even more than 12 months. It was more than 12 months. So many things had happened, and you bring up that tweet. So, in my opinion, I thought, well, this guy is just trying to, he's just trying to stir the pot. So, which means I cannot engage with your logic at that time, and you say that at a time where I had actually been one of the people that were praising Daniel Akpay at the AFCON. I said, Daniel Akpay, and this was what, some 6-7 months later when he was playing for Nigeria and he was the number one goalkeeper at the AFCON, and they went all the way to the semifinals of the Africa Cup of Nations. And I said, Daniel Akpay has improved in leaps and bounds in the 7 months that he's been at Kaizer Chiefs. I was praising him. I was writing about him. I was saying he's done well. And if he were to be offered a contract, then he deserves it. So I don't understand. Here's the thing, bro. Everyone is allowed to change their mind. If
true.
If you have an opinion about Gaston Serino joining Mamelodi Sundowns and he's unknown, you don't know who he is, he has his first game, and his first game is not the best game, so to speak, and you maybe judge him on that one game and you think this guy is not gonna cut it at Mamelodi Sundowns, and you voice your opinion on social media that this guy is not Sundowns material. Maybe you've seen 3 or 4 games, because one game obviously is not enough to judge a player. Let's see, pro, you've seen 4 or 5 games and you're thinking this guy is not Sundowns material at all. 6 months down the line, he's scoring goals, he's got assists, he's offered a new contract. You are allowed to change your mind, bro. And that's what happened. Daniel Akpay improved his performance, and I think I was allowed to change my mind, or not even change my mind, but speak to the current events, that the guy was terrible when he signed for Kaizer Chiefs. And in 6 months, he has improved. So I think that's where the issue came, and I think that's where I blocked you, because I thought, well, pro he's not engaging me because he wants to engage on the topic and for us to debate from a logical stand of view. A logical stand of view. He's just
being a Sundowns fan.
He's being a Sundowns fan. He's just trying to add to the. He's adding fuel to the fire. So look, I don't even know how many Sundowns fans I've actually blocked. I've blocked people who I feel are not trying to engage me on the topic, on the subject. I've blocked people who I think are just trying to either insult my intelligence, or they're just making it too personal when it shouldn't be personal. Those are the people that I have blocked. If you're a Sundowns fan and I've not blocked you, that means even if you might have disagreed with what I've said in the past, that means you've never insulted me to a point where I feel like, I have to block you. Because I've had exchanges and arguments with Sundowns fans about stories, about my opinion about a Sundowns game that I watched. But those that I've blocked, it just means I've not had issues, or I've not felt personally attacked. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Have you ever been misled by a source?
Misled by a source and then written the story? No.
Yeah.
Maybe a source might have given me information that they're not sure about, but I don't think I've gone and published a story and it's fake news. I've never published fake news. I might write an opinion and things change later, but to write a story and present it as a fact and then have to retract the story, if a source tells me something and I don't believe it, I will go check with another source that probably has information about that particular subject. Because here's the thing, in journalism, you have to check with more than one source. You have to check with at least 2 or 3 sources, be able to verify the information that you have. So to take information from one source and write it as gospel, no.
It's not proper.
No.
Mazola,
So that's
Mazola,
what ethical.
How do you deal with information that get presented to you? I mean, that we have explained to Uzi, you find 2 or 3 people who can confirm the story. Now, when it comes to breaking news, now you need to break the story, but you cannot confirm Uzi, no, this thing really it is happening. Now, how do you deal with that? Have you ever been in a position whereby you confirm a story without really verifying the facts? Now, I'm talking from a journalistic perspective now, not to Mazola per se.
Yeah, look, I can make you an example. Let's say, and let's even move away from a football story. Let's say, let's make an example with a story in the Sunday Times last week. The front page about the alcohol ban or the lockdown levels being eased and all of that. That story was not fact, if I can put it like that. The story did not say definitely the president tonight is announcing an alcohol ban, and he's announcing several other means or ways to try and curb the spread of COVID-19. But the story did allude to the fact that there could be an alcohol ban. There could be, schools could be closed. There's discussion. So what usually happens when you get a story like that, whether you're writing football or any other sporting code or even politics, when you get a story like that, there are ways to write it rather speculatively, because that means it's being spoken about, it's being talked about, people are talking about it, they're having meetings about it. It's the same with the PSL. The 18th of July date, when I broke the story, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when I said there are talks. And by the way, at the time, the circular that says 18 July had not come out. But I was told by reliable sources that SAFA and the PSL are talking about the 18th of July. That is the date that is being proposed. And I wrote the story, even though I did not have hard fact, I did not see a circular in front of me that said 18 July. But I was given the story by good sources that I don't think would mislead me, good sources that have given me stories before, and I had no reason to doubt that information was false. So I even checked with a few other people, club officials, so people that I know that would be privy to that information. And by doing that, I was able to write around the story and break the story that there is a proposed date of the 18th of July. And a lot of people, when I posted that story, especially on social media, were saying, here goes Mazola again with his information and his sources. But 2 weeks later, the date was announced that it was the 18th of July. But no one comes back to me and says, Mazola,
you were right.
Mazola has got great sources. Mazola was right. Mazola this. When and now I'm I'm making it personal again now. When I when I wrote the Coach Rulani going back to Mamelodi Sundowns story, when was it, last week or the week before? Some people obviously were surprised. Some people were saying, no chance, this is not happening. Who told you? Who's your source? We will wait for the club to announce. When the club announced, some 5-6 hours later, no one came back to me and said Mazola was right. He's got great sources. He was able to break the story before it was confirmed. So, unfortunately, I'm not sitting here moaning about it. I'm just saying, unfortunately, that's the industry that we're in. You have to roll with the punches. So, again, to answer your question, one, I've not written a story if I don't believe it, if I don't believe the source has valid information that they're giving me. And two, if you've not seen a circular, if you've not seen, because obviously we are journalists. Part of we are, if you like, you can say we back people for information. We follow people, we call people for information, and we keep sort of constantly asking people up to give us information. That's why we use words such as "we are told," "we are led to believe," because the reality is that
And
we are not in
feeling,
those meetings.
and that you've got a feeling.
Well, I mean, I'm allowed my personal opinion about,
Yeah, true.
social media. Social media is very strange. It's
Mm.
one of those it's one of those platforms where people want you to have an opinion and they
Mm.
follow you because you have an opinion. But
Mm.
when you do give your opinion, people then slate you for having an opinion about the said
Mm.
topic. So again, bro, I want to stress that fact that that's
Mm.
what journalism is about. Because when the
Mm.
PSL is having its BOG meeting, I'm not
Mm.
sitting in that BOG meeting. So I'm not
Mm.
there. I don't have first-hand experience of what is being discussed. But if I
Mm.
make my phone calls after the fact, after the meeting, and I
Mm.
call this club boss, I call that club boss, I call that club official, people that
Mm.
were in that meeting and asking them for information, I have to trust and believe that that is what is being said, and I have to write the story. I mean, it would help. Confirmation from clubs, confirmation from SAFA, from the PSL, excuse me, always help, because journalists want information to be confirmed. To be honest, bro, we would rather deal with information that is being confirmed. But the
Mm.
reality, and I think you will know and understand this, the reality
Mm.
is that there is a lack of transparency in our football. So you guys also have to rely on us as journalists to dig
Mm.
for information, because information
Mm.
isn't, you don't just get information willy-nilly from all the clubs. The clubs are hardly ever as transparent. They want to control the narrative. They want to make the announcements when they want to make them. But as journalists, it is our job. Same with political journalists. If they're
Mm.
gonna, the Sunday Times had a front page story already saying that there's a looming ban of alcohol, there's looming lockdown. They did not have the hard cold facts to say, but they had information from their sources, and it was true as
Mm.
when it was announced by the president. So, like you were saying, your question was a general overview of journalism, and it's the same with sport as well. It's the same with football.
Mazola, in the interest of time, let us call this the first half.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna end this live and I'm gonna start another one.
Okay, no problem.
So that we also respond to our questions that people are posting here as well.
Okay, cool
Right.
stuff.
Okay. All right. Thank you. People, this is the end of our first half. We get ready for the second half. For the second. Yes. We back.
Yes, I'm still with you, bro.
Yeah, I know. We back. People are joining in, but we're gonna continue, and I'm not gonna wait for people to log in. Mazola, do you think that journalists sometimes overhype players, PSL players?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think also it's like I said, it's a game of opinions. We
Hmm.
see we see situations differently. I mean, I can even make an example. I can make an example with players moving from one team to another. A new coach comes in, he thinks Jeremy Brokey, is the best thing since sliced bread. Coach Ernst Middendorp and Kaiser Chiefs. He's not a fan of Spelelen Changase, and
Hmm.
by all accounts, he doesn't seem to use, for instance, a Kama Billiard as much as a Giovanni Solinas. I know Giovanni
Hmm.
Solinas is a terrible example, but I'm just I'm
Hmm.
just I'm just making my point about the game being a game of opinion. So of course, if I'm a journalist and I'm covering a match and I'm doing a match report and I see Steve Lekwelea for the first time, I see Jabu Pule Mahlangu for the first time. I see Skapi Malatsi for the first time. Junior Kanye for the first time. I think best thing since sliced bread. And the next thing, careers only last 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 5 seasons. They could have lasted 10 years. You know what I mean? So it is a game of opinion. And it's not just journalists even. I think it's just especially in the age of social media, we can tend to overhype player. I'll make an example with, and I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that Kermit Erasmus is fallen by the wayside or whatever. But Kermit Erasmus a couple of years ago was on the top 50 of the best young players. You know,
in the world.
I think Karim Benzema was on that list. I think Kun Aguero was on that list. But just look at where they are now. Just look at where those players are now and how Kermit's career has, you know, had a topsy-turvy sort of way of turning out. He's played for SuperSport, went to the Netherlands, came back to South Africa, went to Orlando Pirates, then went to France, did very well, was playing for the national team, and then he had to come back home. At some point, he was without the club. He had to move to another country for a few months. Then he came back to South Africa, Cape Town City, you know, and all of that. And all of that. And this was a player who was ranked in the same sort of level with Karim Benzema and Kun Aguero when they were his age, ranked in the top 50 young players in the world. So my point is that we do tend to hype players, and I think it's just human nature that we would do that. And people sometimes think journalists are not human. You know, I don't know where that idea comes from. People think
so sometimes being a football fan sometimes takes over.
It can. I mean, admittedly, being a fan of the game can take over. You know, that's why I'm saying when I watch a game and I'm tweeting about it, it's my opinion. Those are not. You can't say they are hard cold facts. I mean, what if you are watching a game of football? What is fact? The fact is the score line, the number of yellow cards, things that are, you know, you and I can look back 7 years down the line and say, yes, the score line was 1-0. Yes, this guy scored the goal. Yes, this guy has received a yellow card or a red card. But what are not facts is that we can't come back and say, well, he had an average game, and then you say, well, his game was he was okay, or someone else says he had a brilliant game. He was the best player on the day. In fact, he deserves one man of the match. That's not a fact. That's an opinion.
Yeah, Mazola. Obviously, as a football fan myself, I read about almost every PSL team. But I've noticed Uguti, journalists cover only certain teams. Like you give 60% of the coverage to certain teams, and I'm sure you know those teams.
Yeah.
And then you have your teams that they hardly make the news unless. Why is that a culture in South African football, especially from a journalism perspective? Why other teams don't get coverage just like other teams?
Yeah, but I think we have to be fair here, Pro, and agree that not all clubs are equal. If all clubs are equal, you know, they'd be able to attract the same quality of players. They'll be able to pay the salaries that the top clubs with a rich history in the game are able to pay. So, you know, I don't think that's necessarily sort of. I mean, it is true, obviously, that more clubs get more coverage than others, but to prove to that, you can only see it by the numbers. If there's a game on TV, whether it's on SABC or whether it's on SuperSport, or it doesn't matter. I mean, the facts are there. If you had a Soweto derby broadcast on SABC and it gets 4 million viewers in that one afternoon, and still gets quite a high number of viewership in its repeats. And I'll make an example with I think the last Soweto derby. They are saying the last Soweto derby on the SABC had about 4 million viewers, and on SuperSport it had 1 million viewers. If you then bring, I'll make an example, maybe, teams in the lower division, or even teams lower down the league. If you bring a Stellenbosch FC, for instance, and they are playing, I'll make an example, Stellenbosch FC, I don't know, they are playing Ajax Cape Town, for instance, and that game is at the same time as when the Soweto derby was played a week before, and it's on ABC and it's on SuperSport at the same time. The numbers will be there to prove. I think it's just a matter of clubs that are enjoying a certain number of support and have a traditional history. It's in nature, you tend to go to things that are more popular, and I think it's like that with sport as well. I mean, and it's not just like that in SA football. I think all over the world you tend to see that there are clubs that are bigger than others, and I don't think that's ever going to change, especially when a club like Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates, Mamelodi Sundowns, and to some degree SuperSport United. I would have said Bidvest Wits, but obviously that's no longer the case, because that club will not exist by September this year. That club will not exist. So those four clubs, look at the amount of money from sponsors that they have, and also the influential figures within the club. I think that also attracts publicity. But by its very nature, it attracts publicity. So for as long as Chiefs and Orlando Pirates have a sponsorship between 50 and 60 million, a season or a year from Vodacom, for as long as Mamelodi Sundowns are bankrolled by a mining magnate and a billionaire in Mr. Patrice Motsepe, for as long as SuperSport have Showmax and MultiChoice backing them, the facts are they will continue to dominate the industry, and more so even now, post the pandemic, because other clubs, Maritzburg United, are crying that they find it difficult at the moment to even keep up with any payment of any sort. So you always get that, and it's gonna, like I say, it's gonna be even worse post the pandemic, that you'll find that clubs that still have money, clubs that are still able to attract the best players, will continue to have more publicity. I mean, ask SuperSport, ask SABC, ask SuperSport why, when they sell some games to the SABC, they give them the less popular games. Ask SABC why, when they want to buy some of the games from SuperSport, they want the popular games, because they want eyeballs on the TV, because they know what people want to see. They know which players have, which clubs have the most number of supporters. They know which clubs have to some extent quality players, and that's not going to change, bro. That's not going to change, and by its nature, it filters through to the media as well. We will tend to cover your Chiefs. We will tend to cover your Orlando Pirates. We will tend to cover your Mamelodi Sundowns, because those also are the teams that bring revenue. It's a fact. Those are the teams that also bring numbers to our websites. Those are the teams that are able to make sure that our paper gets bought. It's people shouldn't try and limit it to just journalists and media and whatever. On TV, it's very evident. If you look at SuperSport and SABC, it's very evident that they want to always show the same sort of. I mean, throughout the season, you don't ever hear that the Sundowns match is not on TV. You don't ever hear that the Chiefs match is not on TV. I'm talking about domestic football, not Champions League or whatever, because those are outside our country and you have to get special broadcast rights for those. I'm talking about our own ABSA Premiership and local matches, Telkom Knockout, Nedbank Cup. You don't ever hear that Sundowns are not on TV. You don't ever hear that Chiefs are not on TV. Orlando Pirates are not on TV. Those three clubs, come hell or high water, they'll be playing on the same day. The broadcaster will say Chiefs 3 p.m., Sundowns 6 p.m., Orlando Pirates 8 p.m. so that those teams are on TV.
So basically, if there's a Soweto derby on SABC and there's another derby, whether it's a KZN derby, it's a Cape Town derby on SuperSport, it's guaranteed that more people will watch on SABC. So it means that SuperSport doesn't have the numbers.
It's a proven fact. SABC has more numbers.
Yet they have the rights.
Because they've got the money to buy the rights. Therefore, they will sub-license them to the SABC, because the SABC, unfortunately, is the public broadcaster, and I think this is known to everyone. The SABC does not have money. I mean, as we speak, I have colleagues that are facing retrenchments at SABC because the public broadcaster is saying there is no money. So that's a fact, bro. The reason why SuperSport have had the PSL rights since 2007, it's simply because they put more money on the table than the SABC.
One of your, I'll use the word popular, one of your most popular stories you've ever written. I think this one, if it's still available in your archives, you must frame it as well. The Katlego Otlatisa story.
Okay, I'm listening.
You, even though I'm not gonna recall it word by word, but you felt it was a sad story because Katlego Otlatisa was training alone. Tell me about that story. What happened? Where did it come from?
What do you mean? Where did it come from? You are again asking me to give you my source, bro.
Okay. No, let me withdraw that part. The story. I mean, you even put the words. It's sad to see. Remember?
I said I remember. I remember that story clearly. I remember that.
Can you share? Can you? Because I keep checking the comments here. This story has been here since the first.
I see you keep asking about it. So yeah. I'm interested. What is it that they want to know? Because it was my opinion that it's a sad story. I don't know what else that they want me to say. It's my opinion that it was a sad story. This is a player that had immense potential at Platinum Stars.
Platinum Star, yeah.
Does not exist now, or exists as something else, as capable. And this player, if you remember, was offered a long-term contract, because that's how Sundowns do. They either give you a straight 3-year contract and added option for 2 years, or they give you a straight 5 years. And Katlego, because he's so young, I think Katlego is still only 22 now, and at the time I think he was 19 or 20. He was given a 5-year contract by normally Sundowns, and then loaned back to Platinum Stars to finish the season. And then he came back that season and was not seeing a lot of game time, had been out on loan and that sort of stuff. But when he was supposed to come back, there was the club, from what I was told, the club was not sure whether Katlego fits in to the plan. So he had to keep fit on his own, because at the time also he was unattached, because his loan spell, there were confusion about his loan spell as well. So and at the time, Coach Pito was planning ahead for his for the upcoming campaign. And I wrote the story that the guy is training alone. He's waiting to hear back from the coach, and once he does, then a decision will be taken. And I don't understand why this story keeps coming up, because I was proved right. I was vindicated, because Katlego did go back on loan. He was not part of the Sundown squad for the next season, which is the story that I had reported. That by all indications are that he will return to Mamelodi Sundowns because he is under contract. He will be assessed by the coach, and then he will be sent out on loan again. So I'm not too sure why the story keeps coming.
Do you remember the time frame when it was? Do you remember when it was you wrote this?
I think it was end of the season, around May or June. It was towards the end of the season building up to the next season as well.
Yeah, it was around June. And
Yeah.
the argument that a lot of people had at the time was that um, which team was training at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if Katlego Outladisa was training alone, what was said about it? But I understand now that you are saying you were given information that the club is not sure whether he fits or he doesn't fit, or whether he will be retained for the following season or he will be loaned out again. Now I
Yeah.
understand that background because when it happened, when you wrote the story, it was off season, and when we read the story, we were like, how? What was Mazola expecting anyway when it's off season? Because every
But
player trains on his own during off season.
remember, Pro, for Mamelodi Sundowns, it was not off season because Mamelodi Sundowns still had CAF commitments, and there were some players that had been training at Turkop who were not part of the CAF Champions League squad. Katlego was not part of that. You know, he was not part of that, and his loan deal had come to an end. So in the time that he was waiting, I was told that he was keeping fit on his own. So I'm not too sure. People are taking me for my opinion that I thought that it was a sad story. I mean, I see someone commenting now that what is being said, what's said about being sent out on loan. I never said that the loan deal was said. I said the fact that a player that had so much promise was in limbo. In my humble opinion, it was a sad story, and I stick by that. I mean, people can attend all they like, but I still stick by it. I really think a player who had such potential and at that point in time was sort of in limbo and not sure about his next step, especially at whether he'd be a Mamelodi Sundowns player or whether he would go somewhere else. And that is my opinion, you know. So I don't think we will agree on that because
Yeah, true.
Sundowns fans feel like I was trying to attack the club, or I was trying to, you know, I don't know, I was trying to rile them up by saying it's a sad story. No, it was simply just my opinion that how can a young player like that be in limbo and not to, because for me, it's either the club knows and the club has been tracking his performance throughout and they know that at some point he will become a Mamelodi Sundowns player for that season, for the rest of the season or for the new season, or he will go out on loan. I think it was that clear. And the information I was given is that at the time, Sundowns were not sure. And if you remember later on, the guy went out on loan quite late into the new season.
He also broke his leg, yeah, remember?
He broke his leg. He broke his leg much earlier. I think when he broke his leg, when I wrote the story, he had recovered from the leg break. So I don't understand. There is no. So people are trying to connect two things that are not really related. Because if he had broken his leg around that time, Ajax would never have taken him on loan. They would have never have taken a player who's recovered from a broken leg. They would have rather said he should stay at Mamelodi Sundowns and do his rehabilitation there. Why would Ajax take a player that's just recently recovered from a broken leg and want to make him, you know, a regular in their team as they try to be promoted back into the Absa Premiership? So, look, I don't necessarily think we will agree on this. You know, you know, it's I think it's a year later and the story keeps coming up.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I've written
No, like you explained it pretty well in the first session that Sundowns fans are just like that. I mean, because of the things that have been happening in their club, they will want to defend everything that is written about their club. And sometimes we'll go overboard. Sometimes we'll say unnecessary things, which will lead you to block us. Yeah, sometimes I mean, emotions take control of all of us.
Yeah.
And we end up hurting one another. That is why we do these live sessions to clear the air and also to show mutual respect.
And I hope post this this conversation, you know, things will be a little bit better between us and Mamelodi Sundowns fans. And I'm happy to, you know, I can't obviously go and find people that I've blocked. I don't know
The reasons, yeah.
I don't know the people that I've blocked, so I'm not able to find them. So, but if people can reach out and somehow I can be able to see who I've blocked, I'm happy to talk. but bro, I can guarantee you, if the abuse starts again, I am going to block, because
I know.
I think
Yeah,
if
within your rights.
there's no mutual respect, I'm happy.
Mm.
I'm more than happy to debate issues. I'm more than happy for people to ask me questions about the stories that I write. But let's not make it personal. Let's not make
No,
it personal.
I'm also happy to support you. I'm also happy to support you, to tell you, no, block this one, don't block that one. I'm happy to do that. Mazola, obviously you have interviewed a lot of people and you have attended a lot of games. Which game was your most memorable? I know you have told me about AFCON.
By the way, Obake is treading on thin ice, eh? Because I know Obake. I haven't blocked him, but he's skating on thin ice. Obake, watch it. The block button. My block button is itching. My hand is like this.
No, Mazola, I support you. I support you. You know what Obakeng wants? Obakeng wants the Motiba story. Okay,
Okay.
before you tell me about your best game and all and your best interview, tell us about the Motiba story. Where's Motiba now? Where is it going?
The recent story that I wrote. Because
Yeah.
I wrote a story. I think I wrote the story last week that talks are close. Modiba is Modiba is possibly is obviously being targeted by Mamelodi Sundowns. There is a proposal. There's a 5-year contract proposal on the table for Modiba. From what I believe and have been told, SuperSport are considering it. SuperSport are likely to take take the offer because they've had budget cuts. SuperSport have had budget cuts because of the whole COVID situation, and to be able to sort of, maybe survive is not the best word to use, but to be able to kind of stay afloat and maybe possibly even bring in 1 or 2 players, they might need to sell either Aubrey Modiba or Teboho Mokoena or Bradley Grobler. One of the 3, if not all 3 of them. So Modiba, as things stand, Mamelodi Sundowns are looking, and Coach Peter has said it before, that Mamelodi Sundowns are looking for a long-term successor for Langa. Langa is what, 33, 34 years old, and he still looks pretty sharp. He still looked pretty sharp for a guy sort of almost in the twilight of his career. The same with Captain Trompo, the same with Dennis Onyango. But the club is looking for a younger version, so to speak, of Teboho Langaman, and Aubrey Modiba is exactly that. And from what I'm told, there's an offer, like I said, 5-year contract on the table. SuperSport. I think the deal. If you ask me, I think the deal will go through. But don't come here and do another. You said Modiba is going to Sundowns, and then you were wrong.
No. I was trying
as it stands.
No, I'm trying to come Obakeng because I can see that you have said that. I mean, block button is closed, so Obakeng needs to come down. You have explained the Aubrey Modiba story. It's almost done. It's
closed.
It's closed. Yeah, it's closed. You use the word closed. Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, Obakeng must not come to me and say, I said it's happening and why is it not happening? I'm telling him the clubs are talking. It looks like this time around it could go through, but Obakeng must not now make it sound like I announced. If it's done, I will write the story and say it's done. The same way I wrote the story about Hashim Domingo, the same way I wrote the story about Gift Mutupa and Ricardo Goss. Those deals are done. That you can hold me to. Those 3 players are definitely Sundowns players. If those players don't become Mamelodi Sundowns players, you must come back to me and say I lied. But I can tell you for a fact, those 3 players are Mamelodi Sundowns players.
Mazola, you are man of the match so far. Your best interviewee.
Whoa. Yeah, I mean, I've been writing now pro for about 11 years. Yeah, it's difficult to say, but I'll tell you probably the one I enjoyed the most. And it's a pity that I framed it somewhere in my house. You can't see it. It's my interview with Benny McCarthy when just before the Confederation Cup in 2009. Benny McCarthy, quite mature. I think also he was trying to to make sure that there's a relationship with Safa, because he wanted to obviously be in the World Cup on home soil. And Benny McCarthy sat down with me and spoke, about the mistakes that he's made in the past by refusing call-ups and all of that. And the headline was that Benny says sorry, I think that was, one of the most honest interviews that I've done, along with other journalists. It's not like he was just talking to me alone, but it felt, a very good interview. Honest. Benny was answering every question under the sun. Yeah, so that's probably one interview that sticks out, because I've even framed it. I put it, I wrote the story, I think in 2009, early 2009. I've even framed it, and that for me, that was one of my best interviews. I mean, I've had plenty of them ever since. I mean, I've once sat down briefly. It wasn't a long interview, but I sat down with Kaiser Mutawu. It's been great. And I've done plenty others. I've interviewed Coach Pito one-on-one. I've interviewed Coach Steve Kompela one-on-one, Gavin Hunt one-on-one. So, there's been Stuart Baxter, Shakes Mashaba. In as much as people think me and Brashakes don't get along, me and Brashakes get along very well. Very well. That's
why the small boy thing came in.
No, yeah. So that thing, obviously, he was irritated with me over something that I said at the time. But after that, me and Coach Brashakes sat down at Safa House. Brashakes looked me in the eye and apologized. I looked Brashakes in the eye and apologized, and we shook on it. We moved on. So, it's like, that's what I'm saying. Social media, it's the perception that something happens. People don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
True.
I might have blocked you, but for us to get to the point where we are talking on this Instagram live, it means you and I sorted out whatever issue we had offline. But sometimes we don't go public and say, oh, by the way, me and so have we've sorted things out, and we are good to go. So I've had plenty of those, but I think the one that stands out is the interview with Benny McCarthy.
Yo, Wes, the one you felt like, this one.
Yeah, look, it's difficult to say. I can't tell you offhand the worst interview, but sometimes you get back home and you try to listen to the audio again, and you find out that the person didn't give you the information that you're sort of fishing for. You know what I mean? It's almost like maybe after we've done this Insta Live, you've saved it on your page, and people go back and they listen to it and they feel like, Pro didn't ask him the questions that we wanted him to ask Mazola and all of that, So I've had that with coaches and players in the past.
What you are saying now? It happened. We had Senzo Mazingis. Yeah. We as we were chatting with him, I think journalists from East Africa, they saw that he was live, and then they started attacking me.
Yeah.
I'm not asking the right questions. They wanted me to ask about the transfers, who's coming, who's going at Simba. And I had to explain, no, this is not about Simba, but this is about us engaging with the South African who is in Tanzania. And we just want to talk to him about his life there and his experiences there. Because, I mean, some of your colleagues, I'm sure, they're always looking for gossip everywhere, something to write. Which, okay, that's what I said now. But anyway, Mazola, your best player you've ever watched in the PSL?
In the PSL? Tough one. Maybe. Yeah, it's a tough one. But I think it would have to be between Thabo Mngomeni and Jabu Pule, possibly. In the Premier Soccer League era, because obviously if you go before 1996, because I'm only 34 years old, so obviously I wouldn't necessarily remember players in the 80s or late 80s because I was still, 5 years old, 6 years old. But from when I was sort of aware of what's happening and watching football, I think before the Premier Soccer League era, I would say maybe Ace Kuse and Dr. Kumalo, although Dr. Kumalo also went into the Premier Soccer League era as well. He did play post 1996 when it was now under the PSL banner. But in that 1996 up until now, yeah, it's a tough one. I'd probably have to say Thabo Mngomeni, not Tando, sorry. Thabo Mngomeni, Shaful, and yeah, Dr. Kumalo. Although Dr. can fall, he's in two generations, so to speak.
The 90s and the
PSL era. And also late 90s as well. So I think those are the top three of the best players I've watched in our country.
Who's winning the league this season?
If the league resumes, I'd probably have to put my money on Mamelodi Sundowns. I think they've got a stronger team. Kaizer Chiefs, there's a lot happening in the camp with regards to the future of the coach and all of that. Yes, they are top of the log, but it's only 4 points, and Mamelodi Sundowns have a game in hand. Mamelodi Sundowns, for me, obviously have by far the best coach in the country. They have the best team in the country, pound for pound, in terms of different departments: goalkeeper, defense, midfield, attack. And I think, I think with a game in hand, some 7-8 games to go, and the two teams still having to play each other, I think Mamelodi Sundowns have the edge, and for me, they are my pick to win the league.
Who is your footballer of the season?
Footballer of the season, probably I put Lebogang Manyama up there, and I think I'd have to have candidates. I don't think I can pick one player. I think Manyama is up there. I think Gaston Serino is up there. Those are for me the two that stand out. If I were to bring in a third, maybe Samir Nukovic. Samir Nukovic has been a standout player as well. I would have loved to put Mango in there, but I think Mango sort of peaked too late, because Mango really started scoring goals in December. So I don't, even though he might very well finish the top goal scorer, I don't think he had been consistent. He was consistent for pretty much the last sort of game of the first half of the season, then obviously picked up form in the second half of the season. So for me, he picked too late. So Manyama, Serino, Nukovic are my top three.
Zungu going to Scotland?
Zungu, very close to going to Scotland. I did a story. I don't know if you've seen it. I did a story last week. I think the story was initially in our paper on Wednesday, when we published the paper on Wednesday morning, and then I sort of followed it up later that evening, that he's flown back, because he caught a flight from Joburg to Cape Town to France. I think the reason why he had to leave so quickly is because of the pending deal with the Rangers as well. So Steven Gerrard is apparently an admirer there, and the club has made an inquiry. So they have to agree on a fee. I think if they agree on a fee, I think Zungu will play in Scotland next season. I don't see the deal falling through, but you know how these things go. If Amiens is not happy with the fee that Rangers are offering, because I think it's £4 million. If they can't pay £4 million, then Zungu will probably move somewhere else. Because Amiens do have to sell, because Zungu has 1 more year left on his contract. So if Bongs doesn't leave Amiens this season, he will definitely leave next season as a free agent.
What's your opinion about Pesitao and his future? Because right now, I think this is one story that needs that heading, the sad story of Pesitao.
Look, it's very interesting. There's a story I did a few months ago. I think just before the Belgian league was concluded, just assessing and I'll send you. I'll try find that the PDF that I and send it to you, and maybe you can also post it on your social media as well.
Okay.
For people that are interested in that story to go deeper into it, assessing the whole Pesitau situation. So here's the story, Pro. Pesitau has no choice. He will have to be loaned out again because remember the rules around work permits are still very much the same. So if Brighton are able to stay up in the EPL, in the Premier Division, he can't go back because the Brexit rules only change in January next year. So for the next 6 months, Tau still has to go on loan. He chances are he won't get a work permit to play for Brighton. So he has to go out on loan. And the way I see it, Tau still has 2 years because I think he signed a 4-year contract with Brighton. So he still has two more years. So him finding a club won't be difficult. It's a matter of where he's going to play and how he will perform there to convince Brighton that maybe he deserves to play in the first team for maybe his last year at the club or whatever. Or maybe Brighton will take the decision to sell him permanently to another club, maybe in France or in Spain or wherever where work permit issues are not so strict. So Percy has to go out on loan. That's my understanding of the situation because the work permit rules he cannot get a work permit. So it's a matter, as I said, it's a matter of where he goes. And I think because he still has those 2 more years at Brighton, the club will assist him in getting him a good team so that he's able to perform regularly and still be able to acclimatize to the conditions in Europe, which I think, people, and again, it's a game of opinions. People have different opinions about his loan spell at Club Brugge. Some of us feel he's done well. Obviously, I did not watch enough league games in Belgium, but I did watch his Champions League games, and the first
No,
one.
no, some of us we did. We watched almost every game that he participated in.
Yeah, exactly. So, but there are conflicting views about how good he was, or whether he struggled or not. He was in and out of the team quite a lot. That must be said. And the fact that Club Brugge have not asked to extend his loan spell, maybe that's where the club is. The club feels he did not do enough for us to keep him for one more season. Because I think if they wanted to, they could have tried to push to have the loan deal be extended for one more season. So as things stand, obviously we know he's a Brighton player for 2 more seasons, but because of the work permit issues and the fact that Brexit only kicks in January, and that's where things change. Once Brexit kicks in, then Tau has some sort of an opportunity to be able to get a work permit, but the club will have to choose between Pesitau and, say, a player from Italy that's probably showing great potential. They'll have to decide whether they go for Pesitau to come in, or they go look for another player in Italy or Spain, one of the European countries, because that also makes, even though there's a Brexit and they've come out of Europe, it does still make the situation a little bit easier to handle in terms of getting a player that's in the neighboring countries a work permit. Where Tau's situation is a bit more complex than that, but he will have to still prove himself. So with that said, you can expect Tau to go on loan again for next season.
My final question to you, Mazola, your best PSL 11.
I would have needed more time to think about that. But
that is why I'm asking you. I'm asking you here because I didn't want you to think about it.
yeah,
Top of your head, your best 11.
it's difficult. It's difficult. And I might give this best 11 and then change my mind later. I think maybe in goal, Andre Arense, and I'm talking about the era from late 90s, obviously up until now. I'd have to say Andre Arense, goalkeeper. I'd have to say the late Sizwe Mutaung at right back. I'd have to say the former Ajax and Bafana's David Nyati at left back. Lucas Katebe as my centre back.
Root didn't play PSL.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I mean, I'm now thinking. I'm now combining them. So.
No. Let's stick to EPSL.
Yeah. Let's stick to PSL. So I've got Sizwe right back. I've got David. I mean, there might be even questions. Did David also play?
No, it didn't.
In the PSL, so we have to scrap David out. So that's what I'm saying. Off the top of my head, you putting a gun to my head here, bro.
Yes, Mazola. We're catching you offside.
Yeah. It's difficult, bro. If as I said, Andre Arense, Sizwe Mutaung. Now I have to think of a left back. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Then you owe us, Mazola. You owe us a part 2.
I have to think about it, bro. I have to think about it. It's because I'm gonna keep confusing it because there are some of my favorite players that played overseas and won the Nations Cup, but did not necessarily play in the PSL. You know what I mean?
Okay. Would you like to go currently?
Currently, from this season or from the
let's say the last 5 seasons.
The last 5 seasons, I would have to say. Goalkeeper, it's a difficult choice between Onyango and Itumele Nkune. But
you must make a decision on that one. Yeah.
I have to say Itumele Nkune as my number one. Right back. Let me start left back. Left back, I'll have to say Langerman. I think Langerman. Left back. In center back, I have to say Tyson. Tyson, and I'm trying to think. Tyson. Okay, I'll come back to the other center back, and if I go right back, I have to think. The best right back.
I'm noting your team.
Oh, you're noting Dennis Onyango.
Yeah. No, you said E2. You said E2, your number one.
E2, my number one.
Then you said Sundown's greatest left back, Langa.
Then I said Tyson, center back.
Tyson, yeah.
I'm trying to go. Right back. Trying to think between.
Right back. We have about Tapelo Mrena.
No,
but I don't want to give you clues.
No, don't give me clues. I'm trying to think. I'm mindful of the time here, so I'm trying to think quickly. Right back. Trying to check some of the best right backs.
We'll come back to them.
We'll come back to right back.
So what's your formation? 4-4-2, 4-3-3?
No, I'm going 4-4-2. I think I'm going
4-4-2. Okay.
So if I go 6, I'll go Sompo 6.
Okay.
And then I have Temba Zwane there also.
Okay. As your 8, yeah.
As my 8. Then I'll have to have. I have to check. I have to go. I know it's a long. time ago, but I have to bring Tulani Serrero at midfield.
Okay. No, it's okay. I'll accept that one.
Yeah, I know it's been a while since he left the PSL, but
No, I'll accept Serrero. It's fine. I'm allowing you. Yeah,
you're
I'm allowing you.
And then if I go strikers, it's tough because we've not had guys banging in goals left, right, and center. I'm trying to think who were the top goal scorers the past couple of seasons.
You have about Bradley Kropler. Who else we got? Brokey. Who else? The Pelenam Vete.
That's far. If you
yeah, that's far. No, Pele is fair. Pele is far. Yeah, Pele is far. I withdraw Pele.
But if you are accepting Tulani Serrero, then you have to allow Bele, because Bele won Player of the Season after Tulani.
Okay, so you want to add Bele?
I want to add Bele.
Okay, okay, I'll take Bele.
One of my strikers. So who's short? I need 2 strikers, correct?
You need 1 striker, you need 1 midfielder, and you need 2 defenders. You need 4 players now.
I need 4 players. So I've given you Bele as a
striker. Someone is suggesting Sekotlong for you.
No. No. So in midfield I have Trompo, I have Mshishi.
You have Mshishi, you have Serrero.
I have Serrero. Can I add Kama as my striker along with
with Bele? Okay.
Kama is my striker along with Bele.
All right.
So I need 3 players now. 1 midfielder and 2 defenders.
Yes.
I'm trying to look for a centre back pairing with
Ulu, Deruk, Nascimento.
Look, based on current form, just from this season alone, I think I have to put Chin Deruk in there. So he's my centre back pairing with
Tyson.
With Tyson. I was thinking of Rama as my right back, but Rama has struggled based on this season alone. He has struggled, but if we are looking at the past, if we are looking at back to about 5-6 seasons ago, then Rama can be my right back.
Okay, I'm taking Rama. As a right back. 1 more, your midfielder.
Have I not given you enough midfielders?
No, you've only given me 3. You gave me Thompo, Mshishi, and Serrero.
Okay, I need another midfielder. That shouldn't be too hard. I'm trying to think some of the top performing midfielders. Let's see. And it has to be in the PSL or in South African player. PSL or South African player?
No, PSL.
1 PSL. Zungu, does Zungu not qualify?
Okay, I'll take Zungu because it's you. I'll take Zungu. Now, who's coaching this team?
Obvious, Coach Pizzo. It's obvious.
Okay, all right.
I mean, there are Mazola. I could have maybe thrown in there. I could have had Ben Mutsari in there. I could have possibly had AJ in there. I could have had
Pacey as well.
Take Serrero out and put Pacey. I think Pacey should be in the team over.
Okay.
So
all right, Serrero out. No, we covered now. We covered. This is your 11.
Yeah.
E2, Ramampashele, Langaman, Tyson, Deruk, Thompo Kekana, Tembazwane, Pesitau, Bongani Zungu, Belena Mvete, Kama Pilyat.
Yeah,
Your
no,
coach is
that
Coach
sounds like
Peter.
a good team. That sounds like
Now,
a good team.
now, you can win the league. Yeah, Mazola.
And
Thank
obviously,
you very much.
people are not gonna. They're gonna have different opinions about my team,
No,
but that's fine.
don't worry about people and their opinions. They must make their own teams.
I like that,
Mazola,
bro. I like that.
Mazola, you have given us the best 2 hours of our lives. Thank you very much for your humility. Thank you very much for giving us the best of you and for accepting us and welcoming us into your space.
I will block. I will unblock you one by one, but this is not fun again.
Thank you, thank you, and please unblock other 216 members. Mazola, we enjoy to engage with you. We enjoy to troll you, and disrespecting you is not part of our plan. And you can also tell your colleagues as well that when we invite them for Instagram Live, we don't bite.
I will do that, Brapo. Thank you, Nyabong.
May God bless you, my brother.
Same to you. Stay safe, bro.
All right, take care.